All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much and welcome back. My name is Delaney McKinley and I'm Vice President of Membership, Marketing, and Events for the MMA. Hope you all enjoyed your morning sessions and that you've come back from lunch invigorated for even more great information. I'm very pleased to be joined by two experts today in the EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is a series of strategies that have helped to revolutionize many outstanding businesses. I'm pleased to welcome Juon, and she grew up in an entrepreneurial family and worked in the family business. Later, she sold 2 marketing companies and was recognized in Women of Internet Marketing and Michigan 50 Companies to Watch. After experiencing the impact of the Entrepreneurial Operating System in her own business, she served on a leadership team of a company running on EOS. As a full-time professional EOS implementer, she's on a mission to help entrepreneurial leaders discover the power of EOS. She's a strong advocate for leaders in the hard-charging, sleep less, drink more coffee trap. Boy, do I know that one. And she's made it to the other side herself, so I'm really excited to hear about making it through and getting some great strategies there. We're also joined by David Sullivan, who, after years of searching for better tools to serve his marketing clients, he began managing the marketing of an EOS implementer. So while he was capturing the transformational stories of this implementer's EOS clients, he realized that EOS was helping entrepreneurs solve issues in all areas of their business, and he was hooked. So after a few years of studying EOS, David accepted a general manager integrator position at a startup. And while that company actively developed itself, David worked to build the EOS tools into the organization. And this experience has convinced David to devote himself to helping other entrepreneurs master the EOS tools. So this is going to be a lot of information, and we've got about an hour today. We're going to do about 40 minutes of presentation, and then hopefully leave some time at the end for you to ask your own questions. And you can do that through the Q&A box. And if you hover your mouse towards the bottom of your screen, you'll see Q&A. You can click on that, and then you can enter via text your questions there. So with that, please welcome, representing Traction Training Center, Juon and David Sullivan.
Thank you for the introduction, Delaney. Catherine and I have 2 goals that we want to achieve during our time together. And the first is to help you see your business through the lens of EOS. And the second is to give you simple, practical tools that will help you to get more done, gain more traction, and run a stronger business. So to achieve those goals, we'll follow this agenda. We're going to cover a brief history of where EOS came from. Then we'll introduce you to the simple tools that comprise EOS, and we'll finish by clarifying exactly how you can begin using these tools to improve your business. Catherine and I spend all of our time helping entrepreneurs get what they want from their businesses and to have more fun doing it. Unfortunately, most of the entrepreneurs we work with feel a little bit like they're trapped. They're not having fun. They're frustrated, and they're not getting what they want. So in truth, we surveyed our clients and gathered what were their top frustrations. And the results of the poll, we found that the #1 frustration, cited by 82% of our clients, was with their people, their employees, their customers, their vendors, even their partners. Just didn't seem like anyone's listening. The second was a lack of control. They aren't getting what they want. They don't feel like they're controlling their business. Instead, they feel like their business is controlling them. The third is profit. They're just not making the kind of money that they want to make. The fourth is a concept we call hitting the ceiling. They can't seem to take their businesses to a better place. There's something holding them back and they just can't quite put their finger on it. But today, we're going to help you clarify what's been holding you back. The fifth thing they tend to be frustrated about is that nothing's working. They're reading all the books, the blogs, listening to podcasts, but nothing produces lasting results. So those are the frustrations, and we get it. We've both been there, and EOS was created by someone who gets what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Gino Wickman started as an entrepreneur when he was 21. When he was 25, he took over his family's business in Detroit. And in 7 years, he made it profitable and sold it. During the same time, by talking to other frustrated entrepreneurs, he made an observation and a discovery. He observed that all entrepreneurs, all the frustrated ones, are struggling with 136 different issues at the same time. But he discovered that by focusing on strengthening just 6 areas of a business, all those issues get resolved. So he called those 6 areas the 6 key components. And we're going to introduce you to each component of your business by first describing what 100% strong looks like. And then in a second pass around the model, explaining how you can use simple practical tools and disciplines to help you achieve that level of strength. And because your company is the center of your universe, the 6 key components center on your business. The first of which is called the vision component. The vision component is getting everyone in your organization 100% on the same page with exactly where you want to go and how you're going to get there. Because you can't achieve a great vision by yourself, you need great people. The second key component is called the people component. And the definition of great people, it's different in every organization. You need to define what great means for your company and build your team with only those people. Now, the third key component is called the data component. This is cutting through all the subjectivity, the personalities, egos, and opinions, reducing everything you do instead to a handful of objective numbers to give you a pulse on your business at any time. The fourth key component is called the issues component. In strengthening the issues component, we're building the muscle of solving issues at the root, making them go away forever. The fifth key component is the process component. And the process component is where you dial in your business model. It's where you identify just a handful of core processes that make up your business, your way of doing business, and getting everybody in it, following it your way, doing it your way, so you have consistency, scalability, ease of management. You're going to have more peace of mind and ultimately more profitability. The sixth and final component of your business is the traction component. That's where we bring your vision all the way down to the ground and we execute, bringing discipline and accountability into the organization. Sadly, most visions that go unrealized, it's because of an inability to bring traction into the company. As the saying goes, if you have a vision without traction, it's just hallucination. You've heard me say that the objective of EOS is to help you strengthen each component of your business. Now, we measure strength in your business using a scientific but subjective scale of 0 to 100% strong for each area. Our standard is to help businesses reach 80% strong or better in each of the 6 key components. Now, after working with thousands of entrepreneurial teams, we've seen a consistent pattern. Most companies aren't living above 80%. They're closer to 20% strong. And now that's not to shame anyone. This data comes from our own clients. To date, our community of EOS implementers have worked with over 10,000 entrepreneurial businesses, none of which are duds. They're good companies and they've been successful for years, but all of them wanted to become great, to get something more from their businesses. It was these clients that rated their previous selves 20 to 40% strong. With that context set, we're going to take it one component at a time. I'm going to introduce you to the 2 disciplines that will help you to strengthen each component of your business. And everything I'm going to share with you can literally start being implemented today after we log off. Let's get started with the vision component. There are 2 disciplines for the vision component. The first is staying clear with 8 specific answers to 8 specific questions. And the degree to which your leadership teams can answer these 8 questions and all stay totally aligned with the answers, they will have a clear vision to take into the rest of the organization. So what are the 8 questions? Well, I'm going to give you an overview first and then dig a little deeper into each one. They are, what are your core values? What is your core focus? What's your core target? What is your marketing strategy? What's your 3-year picture? What's your 1-year plan? What are your quarterly rocks? And what are your issues? These 8 questions become a 2-page business plan we call the Vision Traction Organizer. Looks like this. And it has 2 pages. The first page is the vision page. You're seeing right now on the screen, clarifies where you want to take your business in the future. And most of the time, it's not that you don't already have a vision. It's more likely that everyone on your leadership team has a vastly different idea of what the long-term priorities are. And the second page of the VTO is the traction page. This is where we clarify how we're going to go get that to that where place we want to achieve. This creates the connection between our long-term priorities and the work we're doing this quarter, this year, to achieve it. So let's take each question one at a time. The first of our 8 questions is, what are your core values? Now, it's a really popular term. Let me clarify what we mean by it. Our core values, your core values, are what matter to you deeply. They come from your core. These are the principles that define your culture, and they're what you want guiding the problem solving and decision making throughout your organization. They're already in play. You just need to discover them. Then you need to define clearly what you mean by those terms or phrases, and you need to help your teams to live and breathe all of the core values. Next question is, what is your core focus? While it might sound like more jargon, it's not. It's a really important union between the primary motivation and the skill of your company. So the answer to this question clarifies why you are in business. It's what motivates you, and what you do better than anyone else. It's where you shine. Now, the extent to which you can remain laser focused right here will protect you from the distractions that would otherwise exhaust you for lack of enthusiasm or potentially bankrupt you for lack of excellence. So staying right here, this is your sweet spot. Our third question is, what's your 10-year target? If we could pick one positive impact that your company would bring to the world by staying within its core focus, what does that impact look like? We could be talking about a goal anywhere from 5 to 30 years away, whatever's right for you, but it needs to be a single distant landmark on the horizon that all of your people can see. For example, you've probably heard President Kennedy's Man on the Moon speech. He set a 10-year goal for the nation to put a man on the moon. Now, at its height, NASA estimates that around 400,000 people were involved in the Apollo program. But if you were walking through one of their facilities and asked the janitor what he was doing, he wouldn't say sweeping the floor. He'd say, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. Everyone was laser focused on their contribution to achieving their nation's 10-year goal. So with that clear, we began to bring that future down to the ground by answering the fourth question, what's your marketing strategy? This clarifies the who we need to reach and the what we need to say in order to reach that 10-year target. The answer to this question has 4 distinct parts. The first is to identify your ideal clients. Who are the people you love to serve? What makes them unique in their background? Where are they located? What do you think they want and value? With that clear, we then need to focus all of our sales and marketing energy toward reaching them. And then once we're in front of them, once our message is in front of their eyeballs, we need to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the market by clearly communicating just 3 things that make us unique. These are the qualities that describe our company and our products and our methods in terms that are attractive to our target market and then also set us apart from everyone else. Then, to relieve any concerns that they might have about working with us and what it would look like to move forward with us, we use our proven process to lay out exactly how we're going to take care of them. For example, let me show you our proven process. Your proven process already exists. We just need to clarify it and present it in a way that's easy to understand. So if you're going to fully answer the 4th question on the VTO, you need to get to a place where all of your salespeople are able to show their prospective clients how your company is going to work for them in the future and what they can expect from you in a single, easy to understand diagram. The last part of your marketing strategy is your guarantee. The purpose of defining a guarantee for your target market would be to preemptively answer their most common sales objection, even before it enters their mind. And this ultimately helps your salespeople to close more deals. So the 5th question on the Vision Traction Organizer is, what's your 3-year picture? And so we're continuing to bring the vision down to the ground even more. We'll start off by setting expectations for revenue, profit, and measurables for a specific date that's just 3 short years away. And then we'll define 5 to 15 details that describe this bigger, better version of our company and what it's going to look and feel like. So the more clearly you can see what your future company should look like in your mind's eye, and then capture it and answer this question with as much detail as possible, the more you'll be able to achieve it, more likely it's going to be to happen. And it also helps you to make a great plan for the next year. Starting at the left of the traction page, our next question is, what's our one-year plan? So we'll start again, setting expectations for revenue, profit, and measurables, and then 3 to 7 goals for the next year. Now, why is it just 3 to 7? Because if we let everything be important, then nothing's really important. So we have to prioritize what needs to happen in the next year for our business to move forward and reach our 3-year picture. We clarify 3 to 7, closer to 3, goals, immediate priorities for the entire organization. Now, once that's clear, and we're all in agreement and aligned with that, we need to clarify our plan for the next 90 days. We answer the question, what are our quarterly rocks? So same process. We start again by setting expectations for the revenue, profit, and measurables for that quarter, along with 3 to 7 rocks that your leadership team will complete. Now, rocks could be called a lot of different things. We call them rocks. And if you've read the 7 Habits book by Stephen Covey, you'll know why. It's because these are the things that have to go in first if we're going to have traction toward our vision. So we also make sure to set which leader in the team is responsible for getting that rock completed, identifying who owns them. So by setting rocks each and every quarter, we create this feeling in the organization, in our team, of living in what's called a 90-day world. It goes like this. You and your team have been working furiously for the past 90 days, driving progress. You take a moment, you evaluate where you've been and what you've done, then you realign everyone on the team with the vision. Because after 90 days of hard and hectic work, you're probably not all totally aligned anymore. Once you're clear, you look forward, setting rocks for the next quarter, and then you get back to work on the business. That's the 90-day world, and you create it by consistently setting rocks each quarter. The last and final question of the VTO is that we need to answer what are our issues or what's on our issues list. Answering this question provides us the opportunity to call out everything that's going to get in the way of us achieving our vision. Specifically, all the issues that sit further away than 90 days. So you don't spend any time worrying about those problems that you can't address right now, and we set them carefully aside to address next quarter. There's actually something therapeutic about getting it out of our head and in a place where the whole team can have the same perspective on what's going to come at us after we finish all of our rocks this quarter. And with that clear, those are the 8 questions on the Vision Traction Organizer, and it's a very powerful tool that can help you and your leadership team to clarify, align around the same vision, and then communicate that vision to your people. So that's the first discipline we teach to help strengthening the vision component of your business. The second is a discipline called shared by all. Now that you're all on the same page as a leadership team and you're in agreement with where you're going and the way you'll get there, you need to get everyone in the business to share that vision. So how do you do that? Well, you need to tell them often. All of your people need to hear your vision every 90 days. Do a state of the company every quarter. Tell your people what is the company's heading. And to be honest, they'll have to hear it probably 7 times before they hear it the first time. It just means that it takes some repetition to help them internalize it. And as you start to see that people maybe don't understand your vision, they don't care about what you care about, you've got to start making some tough people decisions. And we'll talk about that in a minute. You've got to get everybody rowing the same direction. That's 100% strong in the vision component. When you have a clear vision that's shared by all, it is powerful. A fellow MMA member, Jim Richards, can attest. EOS helped align his team to their vision, and it gave him his life back. So now I'm going to hand over to Catherine for the next few key components.
Thanks, David. Now on to our second key component, the people component, because you just can't achieve a great vision without great people. The first discipline in the people component is all about getting the right people on your team. Or as you've likely heard Jim Collins say in Good to Great, we've got to get the right people in the right seats. And I'm going to give you a couple of tools to help you crystallize whether you have all of the right people in the right seats. Earlier, David described how we define right people using your core values in the VTO. So if we had VTOs in front of you, to be right here. And we'll use those core values to make sure that every one of your people is a fit. Here's the tool we use to evaluate that fit. We call it the People Analyzer. And real quickly, I'll give you an example using our EOS core values. We'll also drop in a few names so you can see how this works. As we think about how each of these people, Joanne, Martin, and Ellen, exhibit our core values, we'll rate each of them on a simple scale with 3 options. They'll either be a plus, a minus, a plus minus, or a plus minus. And here's what that means. A plus simply means that Joanne is exhibiting those core values everywhere we look. If, and in Martin's case, we're giving him a minus, that means that we're not seeing those core values in alignment where we need to. And a plus minus, in the case of Ellen, is just showing us that some days she's exhibiting that core value and some days she's not. Kind of depends on the weather. Once we've put this system into place, we rate each member on each of our core values. And then we set a bar. It's the minimum standard we're willing to accept to allow someone to stay embedded in our culture. In this case, you can see we're looking for a minimum of 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses with no minuses, and that's pretty typical. But you'll choose what's right for your team. And just so you're not afraid, you're going to have to go out and fire half the team tomorrow. Falling below the bar is just an opportunity to create clarity and to coach. With true candor and clarity, you might be surprised how often people rise to the occasion. And if they don't, that's okay too. You don't want those bad apples spoiling the bunch. So that's right people, making sure everyone shares your core values. Now we go to the second discipline of defining great people, and we call that right seats. Right people, right seats, you gotta have both. So right seats simply means that all 56 of your people, if that's your number, are in the right seat in your organization. But how do you know when they're in the right seat? You need to define the right structure. To do that, we'll take a big step back with your leadership team. We'll look far into the future. Well, actually not that far. We look about 12 to 18 months ahead. And we decide what is the right and best structure to take your company to the next level. Because we want to get you to that next level. And it all starts with structure. As Gino says, structure first, people second. So let's talk about how we create that structure with the accountability chart. The accountability chart is based on the assumption that every business has 3 primary functions, as you see illustrated here. In addition, we have what we call an integrator. An integrator is a strong leader responsible for driving accountability, removing obstacles, and last but not least, managing for profitability. Next, we decide, do we have a visionary on our team? In about 50% of the companies we work with, there's a visionary, someone wired for innovation. Often it's the owner of the company who's the brainchild who started it all, who's gifted at managing strategic relationships and at watching over the culture of the organization. That's what we call a visionary. And if we have one, we just call it out and customize our structure to reflect that reality. Next, we customize the accountability chart for your specific major function. So if we go back to example for sales, we might split sales up into 2 functions like sales and marketing. We might split operations up into a couple of major functions as well. Could be production and engineering. And when we look at finance, sometimes that breaks out into things like HR and IT. Whatever your accountability chart winds up looking like, the rule of thumb is that there are 3 to 7 major functions, and ultimately we'll create the structure that is right for you and your business. After we've decided what all of those seats are, then we need to clarify what each seat is accountable for. We call these the roles of the seat, and they clarify our expectations at a high level. We define 5 major roles for each function, so we have absolute clarity about who is responsible for what. There are no shared seats or shared roles because we know what happens when we have shared seats, right? We have this going on. We don't want that. But we can have one person in multiple seats, and we often see that in entrepreneurial companies. So here's an example of a seat. This is the marketing and sales seat, and this is what we would expect a marketing or sales leader to be accountable for. Things like caring for their direct reports with great leadership, management, and accountability. We call that LMA for short. Generating new leads, things like managing our brand, closing deals, nurturing account relationships. That's a typical marketing sales seat. Then and only then, after we've defined all of the roles, do we start putting butts in seats. Now that we've got butts in seats and not people in boxes, that's a pet peeve of mine, we've got to make sure we hit all of the marks for what we call GWC. GWC stands for get it, want it, and capacity to do it, to handle each of these roles really well. So how do we know if somebody really GWCs the seat? You might guess by now, we have a tool for that. So we'll go back to our people analyzer and we'll test it. We add GWC across the top next to where we had the core values. Then we rate each person for GWC, basically a thumbs up or a thumbs down for each. Yes, do they exhibit this core value, or no, they don't. And in this case, the bar is non-negotiable. You need yeses across the board. Now we have clarity around whether or not our people are the right people and if they're sitting in the right seats. Ultimately, you'll wind up with an accountability chart that looks something like this. And remember what Gino said, we always want to put structure first and people second. That's how you go from good to great. And that's 100% strong in the people component. So here's an example from Michael at Livonia Tool about 100% strong feels like when you're achieving it and living it in your organization. The third key component is the data component. Data helps us cut through subjective information, personalities, opinions, egos, and gives you an absolute pulse on your business. We use 2 tools and disciplines to build strength in the data component. The first is maintaining a simple scorecard, and we'll take a quick look at how a scorecard works. So as a leadership team, we're going to pick 5 to 15 numbers or measurables that give you an absolute pulse on your business. We'll focus on activity-based numbers that predict your future results, like this. Then we set a goal for each measurable, so we have absolute clarity about whether it is on track or off track. Then we determine who owns that number and who's accountable for it. And then we track 13 weeks of data to spot patterns and trends. You can see as we fill in this data, excuse me, that adding color really starts to help reveal trends and relationships between the numbers. Often ones that wouldn't have necessarily surfaced otherwise, at least not as quickly. Your scorecard serves as an early warning system. All right, so once we have that scorecard and we've got it at the leadership team level, getting strong in the data component means driving that same data discipline throughout the entire organization. Over time, you'll create a scorecard for each department and each sub-team, and eventually we want every single person in the company to own a number they're driving every single day. Like Nucor steel workers chalking the number of heats they completed each shift on the plant floor, by virtue of tracking a number, they naturally wanted to beat their own number and beat the other shifts, driving productivity their competitors could only dream of. There's nothing more powerful and impactful in the way of giving people clear expectations than by giving each of your people a number. So that's 100% strong in the data component. Each team has a scorecard and everyone has a measurable or a number. At this point, we're halfway through the model. And we've spent a lot of time here because the first three components create a strong foundation for everything else we do. I promise the rest of the components will go faster and we'll get out of here in time. All right, so humor me for a moment and just imagine your company already has a really strong vision component. The people component is strong, your data component is strong. That means you've got an organization that is open, honest, and completely transparent. As a result, you're naturally going to start smoking out all of the issues getting in the way of your goals. EOS helps you identify those issues that are getting in the way, and it also helps you get good at solving those issues. So that brings us to the fourth key component, the issues component. And the first tool or discipline we use for managing those issues I was talking about is something we call the issues list. Now you may remember that David touched on the idea of the issues list earlier. It's on your VTO. And in addition to getting stuff out of our heads and onto paper, the other idea behind the issues list is that we don't want all of the issues to wind up dumped on the desk of one person who will become a bottleneck no matter how well-intentioned or diligent they are. Every team in your organization needs to have its own issues list, which is simply the discipline of getting good at openly and honestly admitting the issues, calling them out, and working as a healthy, cohesive team to solve them. Now, I realize the word issues carries negative connotations for many people, but in EOS, we love issues. Issues give us an opportunity to get stuff out of the way that's been holding us back so we can go out and be rock stars. Once your people get good at calling out the issues, next we give them a simple process for solving those issues, and we call that the issues solving track, or IDS. So IDS works like this. I stands for issues, D stands for discuss, and S stands for solve. We use this IDS process because we find that even in the best leadership teams, they have a tendency to discuss the heck out of everything. Rarely do they identify things, rarely do they solve things. They talk about stuff and they feel like they're productive, but we want to fix that. So to do that, we quickly prioritize 3 issues that are important to discuss in the meeting we're in. Then we start with the first issue and we IDS it. We identify, we dig down till we get to the root of the issue. We discuss, someone proposes a solution and the team refines it, and we solve. Someone agrees to take a specific step forward to solve the issue with a goal of solving it once and for all for the greater good of the company. Then we remove that issue and we wash, rinse, and repeat with our other issues on the issues list. So when you're 100% strong in the issues component, you're building a muscle from top to bottom where issues no longer linger for days or weeks or months or even years. Those unresolved issues are like anchors. They're anchors on your business. They're holding you back from getting what you want, and they're an energy drain. We want you to cut those anchors loose. And as Scott so beautifully describes here, getting good at solving issues makes the impossible possible. The 5th key component is the process component. And it's no secret that many entrepreneurs don't like process. More often, honestly, they avoid it like the plague. Process sounds like it will stifle creativity and the ability to be flexible. Consequently, process suffers and is often neglected, even though it's so powerful. EOS makes process simple, so it's no longer neglected in your organization, and here's how we do that. So our first discipline in the process component is simply to document our processes. Often process sounds overwhelming because it sounds like we're suggesting you document every single one of your 120 processes and procedures, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're looking to agree on a handful, just a handful of core processes as a leadership team and get them documented. It doesn't have to be difficult, I promise. So here's what a handful of core processes might look like. Got people, marketing, sales, operations, finance, customer service. This all sound familiar, right? And you can see there's only a handful. Our goal is simply to get each of them documented at a very high level. And to do that, we use the 20-80 rule. A little bit different than the 80-20 rule you might be used to, but we want to get only the essential steps that will produce our desired result. So first, we agree on what these core processes are, like we did here in this list. Then we document them so we're all in agreement about how they work. So let me give you an example of what that documentation might look like. So that list of core processes we just identified, that becomes the table of contents for your process manual. That's simple enough, right? Once we've got that, we'll simply document each process at a high level. You'll only need 1 to 3 pages per process because we just want to get clear on the steps in the process, the order of those steps, and who's doing what. We want to keep it simple. For example, let's take the people process. At a very high level, this is what a people process might look like. You've got to identify when you need a new person, define what that seat looks like, identify how you will go about hiring the person, how you will onboard and train them, and how you will lead, manage, and hold them accountable. And if it doesn't work out, how you will fire them. From there, you simply repeat these same steps to document other processes like sales, and so forth and so on. Again, you're simply documenting at a high level and staying clear about the priorities, which keeps your process documentation simple and lightweight. When you're done documenting your core processes, you'll put them all in a binder. And now you've got what we call the ABC way of doing business. You'll name it your company way of doing business. The process manual will become your secret sauce, your recipe for consistently achieving everything you want in your business. It's that simple. The power of the process component is the way it frees you up to do amazing things. The second discipline in the process component is also super simple. We just want to make sure that all of those core processes that we documented are followed by all. For that, we use another tool. This one we call the followed by all checklist. In order to make sure your processes are followed by all, we first train your people in the process so they understand the why and the what of the process. We measure that the process is being followed, and here's a hint. Some of these numbers may bubble up into your scorecard. These pieces often tie together in really subtle ways like that. And this tells you whether or not your process is being followed. So for example, you might track errors or scrap to tell if your quality process is being followed. Once you've trained and measured, then you're going to make sure you're managing the team, leading by example, and correcting your people when they're not following the process. You'll also need to keep the processes updated. That way people won't start doing their own thing because something changed. When you're 100% strong in the process component, everybody in the company is following the process. You'll create consistency and scalability, and you'll be able to take your hands off the wheel and trust that the plant won't burn down while you're on vacation. You'll finally get things out of your head and onto paper so that people can follow processes that aren't just stuck in your head. You'll make your company more efficient, more profitable, and ultimately more fun to work for, to be a customer of, and to own. That's the process component. And now I'll hand the baton back to David to share the last component and wrap things up. Take it away, David.
Thanks, Catherine. The sixth final component is called the traction component. And still, you guessed it, 2 more disciplines here. We've already talked about the 90-day world at the leadership team level when we consistently set rocks for our leadership team. And in the VTO, you saw that every leader has at least 1 rock per quarter, and that when you're strong in the traction component, then everyone in your company starts taking rocks. We bring that same discipline of prioritizing down to the rest of our people. And ideally, in a perfect world, we reach a place where every person in your company takes a rock every quarter, so they're helping you achieve your vision. This creates that 90-day world for all of your people. It helps everyone focus. And so setting your rocks every quarter to create that 90-day world for the rest of your company's life is extremely powerful. Strongly encourage it. Now, the way we maintain focus through that 90-day period is by having the right meeting pulse to keep everything in focus and on track during the 90-day period. And here's how that works. First, every functional team in your business meets each quarter to clarify the rocks for the next quarter, creating that 90-day world. Then, to help them stay on track each week and month, you need to have the right level of meetings or the right meeting pulse. And what Gino did to figure this out was hone and hone until he came up with the perfect meeting. I know it sounds lofty, but it's true. This agenda is in use in every organization we work with. More than 10,000 companies are following this to the letter. So first, your meeting should start on the same time. Start on the same day. At the same time, it has to start on time and end on time consistently, and it follows the same agenda. Now, when you do this, you're saving time in other places throughout the week. Typically, 2 to 3 times the amount of time is saved because we're cutting off all of those offline meetings and in the hallway conversations that would typically take place and kind of drain your time throughout the day. So let me share the agenda with you quickly. You could almost start using this next week. First, we check in on good news. This brings a human element to the meeting. It helps you to segue, getting your head from working in the business now to working on your business. And everybody goes around the table and shares one great thing, personal or professional, from the past week. Then we get into reporting on everything that happened in the past 7 days. First, we check in on our scorecard, making sure all of our numbers are on track. And wherever they aren't, we simply drop it down to the issues list. Then we review our rocks, making sure that they're on track, moving forward. No discussion, just reporting, on track or off track. If there's any issues, if any rocks have gotten stuck, drop it down to the issues list. Then we talk about our people. We check in on our customers and employees and make sure that we're on the same page with all of our people, making sure they're happy. And if there are any issues, again, just drop it down. You're only reporting on the past week so that you can smoke out all of the issues and get them all out of your head. Then we go on to a to-do list review. So this is to bring accountability. Everyone that took a to-do last week checks in and reports on it being done or not done now this week. What that means is you're managing one document. It's dynamic. New to-dos come on in this meeting and the done ones from last week go off. And a rule of thumb here, what you want is 90% of your to-dos dropping off every week. And if they're not, that just means you have another issue somewhere else. What this does is it helps us build accountability as teammates. It's a great discipline and helps generate the actual traction we need. Next, we build an issues list. All of the issues that we couldn't get to last week, all of the issues that we found while we were reporting, and anything new we came across this week that we need to talk about. It all goes on the issues list. Then, using the same process that Catherine just described in IDS, we prioritize picking our 1, 2, 3, following IDS, and solving the issues. And the way it works is this. You might notice at first you've got a ton of issues on that list, but over time you're going to solve 5 to 10 this week, then 5 to 10 are solved next week, and 5 to 10 are solved the next week after that. You get the point. All the obstacles that have been standing between you and your vision start to get solved at the root, and they go away forever. The level 10 meeting builds traction and it moves you forward. The last step is to conclude. We're going to recap the to-dos, clarify if we need to tell anyone any cascading messages that were decided on in the meeting, and then we rate the meeting. We literally rate the meeting. We give it a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being best, we used our time really effectively. And what this does is it gives your facilitator feedback, because you want to always feel like you're in a meeting that's totally worth your time. That's a level 10 meeting. When everyone in your organization is taking rocks that contribute to achieving your vision and you're maintaining the right meeting pulse throughout the quarter, that's how we build strength in the traction component of your business. So those were the 6 keys to getting everything that you want from your manufacturing business. That's the EOS model. And to summarize, Catherine and I just gave you a ton of information, and you probably might feel like you've been drinking from a fire hose. So let's just summarize it quickly. Excuse me. We had 2 goals, we remember. We wanted to help you to look at your business through a different lens using the 6 key components of the EOS model. Our second goal was to introduce you to the simple and practical tools that we call the foundational tools, answering the 8 questions as a leadership team to clarify where you want to take the business, getting clear on the right structure first, the roles and responsibilities you need to start getting right people sitting in the right seats. And if you do nothing but sit down and agree on 3 to 7 rocks for this quarter, you can start to drive those results. Maintaining awareness about what matters most, driving accountability with a weekly level 10 meeting, and keeping an objective scorecard that gives you awareness and peace of mind about the health of your company. Those are the 5 foundational tools, and they're 80% of the battle. They are the 5 tools that we push to implement in organizations top to bottom first, and only at the pace that you can learn and fully implement. So think about what you're going to go out and do from here and work on in the next 7 days. Which of these appeal to you most, offer you the most value? And if you're interested in learning more on your own, we have some options. Visit eosworldwide.com. In our Traction library, there are a series of books you could read. We also have all of the tools that we shared with you today are downloadable. And you could also request the help of a professional EOS implementer like Catherine or myself. And if you'd like to read Gino's book, Traction, just ask us. Visit this link on your screen and we will pop one in the mail to you. Download the tools from the website. And if you want more help or want more explanation, schedule a free 90-minute meeting for your leadership team with either Catherine or myself or 375 other EOS implementers in our community. If neither of us are right for you, we'd be happy to introduce you to someone else. So thank you for your time today. And I just have one more question for you, the audience. So are you clear about the next steps you're going to take to build strength in your business, in each component of your company? To help you move forward in getting what you want, we're going to open this up for Q&A now. And Delaney is going to read your questions from the Zoom Q&A box.
Wow, thank you so much, David and Catherine. Really a lot of tangible, actionable items that we can take away from this session. You mentioned it before, it is a lot of information. My mind's kind of rushing. I'm thinking how I can apply it here in our organization. I'm sure our participants are doing that as well. My first question, and for those of you who are participating, this is your opportunity. Ask some questions. You can do it through the Q&A box. Hover along and hover over your screen, the bottom of it. You'll see a little chat bubble there, double chat bubble that has Q&A. So click on that. It'll open a box for you and you can type in your question. And I'll read that off to David and Catherine. But I'll get things started. One of the things that really occurs to me in my organization and many organizations, a lot of folks show up with great plans of what I'm going to accomplish today, and most people have some sort of idea of their goals, but so much gets in the way. You'll get an email from so-and-so, a customer throws something out over here, you get a new customer, you get lots of new things thrown at you that weren't part of the plan. How is that accounted for in EOS?
Well, I'll grab that one if you're okay with it, David. I think So that's what we call compartmentalizing in EOS, is figuring out where all those issues fit and when you're going to solve them. So obviously there's sometimes immediate urgent things that just have to be taken care of on the spot. But that discipline of saving things for our weekly level 10 meeting, that's the place where we take some things and then bigger things that we know are on our long-term radar that we need or want to tackle someday, but we know we don't have to figure them out this week in our meeting this week. We put those on our VTO, that Vision Traction Organizer that David introduced, and then we come back to those at the quarter. And we do that same thing at our annual when we get together annually to plan the next year. So we're looking at the even bigger things then. So we're really just building this discipline of, okay, is this an issue I need to solve now? Do I bring it to the level 10 meeting this week? Or is it something that can sit on the Vision Traction Organizer for the longer term?
That's a good way to look at it. You say discipline, because I think, a lot of folks will just try to respond immediately. One of our sessions this morning talked about how often the brain will want to act, and if you act quickly, it's just kind of an emotional response, and it may be not your best decision making. So that kind of goes along with what you're saying here. Maybe this doesn't require a response immediately. Think it through. When does it need to be addressed, and then put that where it needs to be. And conversely, it also just doesn't drop off the radar. Longer term goals sometimes just get forgotten about if they're not documented somewhere.
Right, and it helps provide comfort to everybody else in the organization too, because they see, even if you're not handling it right now, they know you've got it on that issues list, so they know you haven't forgotten. So it just quiets a lot in the organization. There starts to be more ease because you don't have people, well, what's going on with this thing, or water cooler talk about, well, they just never get around to, whatever it is, right? They'll know that it's on the issues list and that you'll get to it when it's the right time for that specific issue.
Gotcha. Looks like we have a question here. In existing businesses, there are usually well-entrenched cultures. So how long, in your experience, does it typically take to change the culture and incorporate EOS throughout an organization?
Yeah, I think it depends really on what you're talking about changing in the culture. So it often, if you're redefining the culture and the people in the culture, and it's a pretty large organization, it's going to take time to go through and figure out who fits and continually sort of upgrade your people. It's often a process that we think about it that way, right? Just we're upgrading over time to get people that can help us achieve our vision and that are a really strong fit for our core values. So I'm not sure if that answers the question or if there's
Sure, no, and that makes some sense depending on how much change, how close you are to your goal already, and how close you are there. You mentioned a large organization. Is this something, is this a practice that can be applied regardless of size of organization?
Yes. Yep. EOS's sweet spot would be businesses typically between the size of, say, 10 employees to as much as 250 or larger. We have many larger clients that work with EOS, bigger than that, and even some smaller. But the sweet spot typically is 10 to 250.
Okay. Now, this seems to be, a fairly big shift for a lot of organizations, especially the accountability, shifting how meetings are conducted. What are the most common obstacles that you see in organizations as they're implementing EOS?
So the most common obstacle, or the hardest part, is having the leadership team all learn and master the disciplines, because what EOS relies on is the leadership team to master the tools and then teach them to the rest of the company. And so the faster that the leadership team commits and engages with running the business using these disciplines, then yields results as they teach those same disciplines to the rest of the company, and especially in the way that they demonstrate through their own behavior that this is the way we're going to run the company and the standards we're going to use.
You're leading by example.
Exactly.
We've got about 5-6 minutes, so for those of you participating, please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A box.
And I can add a little bit more to that earlier question you had, Delaney, about how long does it take? So when we're asking companies to commit to the EOS process, we're asking them to commit to what we call a 2-year journey. So to the point about how long does it take, it's not an overnight thing, right? First, we're developing all of these disciplines and learning all of these tools as a leadership team. So we get really good at it as a leadership team. Then we start rolling it out to departments. And then those departments eventually start following the practices and roll it out to sub-teams and beyond. And it takes about 2 years for most companies to implement that process, at least through the leadership team and departmental level, and sometimes a little longer, depending on, or faster, honestly. But again, depending on the size of the organization, it's a 2-year mental commitment is what we're looking for.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's this is broad enough and significant enough change in order to heed, significant results. It's not going to be like flipping a switch.
I wish, but yeah. No magic switch here, no magic bullets.
Yeah, it's just doing the hard work. Absolutely. Where would someone start? Is this, I know we outlined 6 different principles, and they all seem to be interrelated. So where does it start? There's
a couple places you could start. You could start by reading the book Traction that Gino wrote. It lays out everything in greater detail than we did today. Or we'd like to say that there's the book or the movie version. If you were to schedule a 90-minute meeting with an implementer in your leadership team, like Catherine or I would come and actually present the full content of the book, but in a condensed form to your team and answer any of the questions specific to your business that you might have about what would it look like to actually implement these disciplines.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really generous offer that I want to remind all of our participants that the Traction Control Center has offered. You can go to the website that is displayed on your screen there, 87plus.com/MMA2020, and you can request a copy of Traction. They'll mail it to you. And you can also get a 90-minute session with an implementer, and that will be specific to your company too. Because, I think that, obviously every company is a little bit different. Your culture is going to be a little bit different. Your product's a little bit different, whether you're a manufacturer, you're an association, what have you, things like that. But you find that this is a process that can be applied across any company?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Over 10,000 companies now worldwide have had over 56,000 sessions using EOS. So when we say it's a proven system of simple practical tools, like these days we've got the numbers behind it, and it's a huge variety of companies that are using it. More often companies than nonprofit organizations, but there are also lots of nonprofit organizations that are using it as well.
Sure. Interestingly, I had lunch with a friend whose organization recently implemented EOS, and he has become such a devotee of the approach. He started having the level 10 meetings at home, making decisions about family decisions with his wife, and utilizing that approach, and said it has been revolutionary to managing 3 kids and a household with 2 working parents, and so applying it everywhere in life.
Oh, absolutely. David and I both. David uses it in his family. I've been for the last 10 years, more than 10 years now, using this process in my personal life to set my own 10-year target and those kinds of things. And it's just amazing. Like you can't begin to believe, it would sound like I was making things up.
You're telling me you can help me organize my professional and my personal life?
Yep.
Yes.
That's
because what EOS does is it helps align human energy. It helps get everybody to understand what everyone else wants, and providing that kind of clarity and openness is extremely powerful because it kind of unlocks teamwork and collaboration in a different way. And it can be a little difficult at first. I wanted to touch on one of the things you said. It is definitely works for for-profit and nonprofit companies, definitely, but there's a mental aspect for who it works for. It has to be people that want something better for their business. This isn't just we're humming along. If you're satisfied with the results you're getting, we are so happy for you. We love seeing entrepreneurial businesses thrive. But if you're not getting what you want, then this might be worth the emotional and time investment to master these tools and disciplines. You have to want something better
Sure, to make this
to really adopt them.
investment. Absolutely. I've got one quick question before we head to our break, and that is, can an organization do this on their own? Do they need an implementer? Do they need a facilitator? And if so, how much assistance does that typically require?
Yeah, so one of the great things about EOS is that all of these tools are free and downloadable. With the book, you can read it, you can implement it yourself. Over 1 million copies of the book have been sold. So, you know, who knows, maybe there are 1 million businesses out there that are, you know, running EOS on their own, in addition to, you know, the ones that are working with implementers. So I really, that's one of the things I really love about EOS and about Gino, is that he's passionate about making sure that this is available for every entrepreneur.
Great. Well, thank you so very much. I have lots more questions, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to connect with you through the website that is on the screen. There's also information available in your event program that you can reach out to Catherine and to David directly. We are heading into a brief 10-minute break. So we'll be entering into the final breakout sessions of the day before the closing keynote panel. So refer to your agenda, refer to the email that you received from Sarah Martin via Seminar Web to click the link that corresponds to the room that you're heading to. Thank you so very much, Catherine. Thank you so much, David. And thanks to those of you for attending, and we will see you in about 10 minutes.